What's up, crew? Welcome to Filming in Progress, the show that takes you backstage into the world of local businesses and the people who make them shine. Today, we're joined by Jared Sarbit, founder of Picture Perfect Cleaning. Jared combines hospitality expertise with strategic leadership to drive excellence. Tune in as Jared shares insights into his journey as an entrepreneur and the operational strategies fueling his company's success. Jared, thanks for being here.
My pleasure, yeah.
Where did your entrepreneurial journey begin?
Oh man, I mean, I was always an entrepreneur as far back as I can remember. When I was a little kid, I was doing magic shows, for the block, and then it ended up doing magic shows for, seniors' homes and birthday parties and schools. And I always had this idea of, how can we generate a business? How can we produce money? And it was just kind of really fun for me. So it's really always been in me. Yeah.
Doing the magic shows and that sort of thing, did you ever think, like going forward, that it could be a business, that you might own your own thing in the future?
Totally. There was a guy in Winnipeg doing the same thing, and I remember, I won't say his name, but I remember his name, and he's probably still doing it. And I remember thinking, I'm better than him, and I could do it a lot better. And I always kind of thought, maybe I should venture down that way. Just never took that leap, but yeah, I did consider that it could be a business for me. Yeah.
So what made you take that leap in the first place?
For the current business that I have?
Yeah.
Oh man, so I wrote probably 20 business plans before I came up with Picture Perfect Cleaning, the commercial cleaning company that we have. And there was all sorts from a coffee shop to, like, I was thinking I'd open multiple coffee shops, to seniors' homes. I had so many different ones. And this one actually came from my wife. Her father was, and herself were refugees from northern Iraq. He came here with very little in his pocket, almost no English, and became a janitor. And my wife, and now at the time we weren't married, but she came to me and she said, you should consider looking at this business, the janitorial business. And at first I didn't really take it too serious. It just didn't seem like it was a big industry. I couldn't imagine how big it really was. But the more I dug and the more I started looking at it, I was like, oh my goodness, there's something really special here. And what she said was, people like my father come here to, live the Canadian dream, or at least sacrifice so that their children could live the Canadian dream. That's what he did. He worked day and night, and the kids would often come and help him at night clean different places, and they all work so hard as a family together. But she said, if you treat people like my father well, with respect and dignity, they'll be loyal to you for life. And so I started looking at the numbers and everything, and it started to really make sense. And I noticed also that our industry didn't treat people that well. In general, it was a dirty industry, pun intended. And so there was an opportunity there to treat people with respect, dignity, and help them build their dreams. So back to your question about taking the leap. It was time, because I had all these ideas, and my friends were always like, okay, Jared, here's another idea. And they kind of would almost laugh at me, like, Jared and his other new idea. And they never really thought that I would actually, put my feet in the water. And I just said, you know what, enough is enough. I knew in the restaurant that I worked at the time, I was a senior manager with them. I knew that there was no opportunity for ownership there. I actually met with the president of Earl's Restaurants, and I said, is there any opportunity for ownership? And he said, unfortunately not. In fact, right now we're trying to buy back any franchise that we had. And so I said, okay, that was when I knew it's time to do this. And that was it. So yeah.
You said in there that the industry has typically been a little bit, not caring for the people, that sort of thing. And I know that you've made a stand against that. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that was originally?
I mean, I can only speculate. But I think generally the people that are coming here are because often their English is not great. It's their second or third language. Often they don't have, they're the lower income people, and so I think a lot of people thought, like, the old way of thinking things, that those people you don't have to treat with respect. Like they don't deserve it or whatever that is. I'm not saying every company was like that, but certainly the ones that I came across in the early days were, and I do still hear it and see it quite often, where people now come to us and are like, oh my goodness, like what a difference, and so I don't know. It's hard to say why, but I think it is that they see them as second-class citizens, and where we see them the opposite. We actually see it where we actually work for them, and we're here to facilitate their dreams versus they work for us. And when they experience that significant difference, there's a massive gap between how they were treated over here and how they're treated with us. That's where the magic really happens. So.
Yeah, it's clear that people is the core of your business, and that's what you've centered everything around.
Big time.
Why is that still important today?
Yeah, I mean, without them, we'd be nothing. I was actually thinking about it just this morning. Last night we were at the game opener for the Surge, Calgary Surge, and we're sponsors of the team this year. And that was really special, A, because I'm a big basketball fan, but B, just to see our logo on the screen, and the people mopping the floors are wearing our shirts, and I was just thinking this morning, like, I couldn't do it without these people. Like, I rely on the people in our business to get here, and it's not when our logo is there, it's not Jared's company or my partner Aaron's company, it's their company. It's all of us together that we're working. And again, it's a win-win. When our people are incredibly happy, achieving their dreams, whether it's sending money back to the Philippines to support their family, or buying their first house, which we've seen, which is amazing, or buy their first car, or whatever that might be. When we see that happen, and that experience, they tie that back to Picture Perfect Cleaning. It's a win-win, because not only are they happy, but they're also loyal to us and give better results, and it's truly a win-win scenario. Yeah.
There's beauty in every industry, and I think cleaning is often seen potentially as something that's it's not the prettiest, or it can be perceived that way.
Yeah.
Where do you and where do your staff find the beauty in the work that you do?
There's a quote, and I can't remember it, but it's about a street sweeper, and whatever you're doing, do it with joy, and do it with perfection, and give it your best. If you look up the street sweeper quote, it's a beautiful quote. I should memorize that, but. When we first started the business, because I was working in the restaurant industry, and I worked at 6 different Earls locations, so people knew me in the city. I knew a lot of people just because of the exposure I had at the different locations. Now here I was, imagine this, for those of you that know 17th Avenue in Calgary, I was cleaning a coffee shop. That was our first client, and the windows were wide open, the lights were on, and there's a red light right there, so everyone's backed up looking in the window while I'm mopping the floor, and looking in and seeing me clean. And it was I had a moment there of, this is where I belong, because it was humbling, where I came from, the restaurant industry, nightlife, all that stuff. I was like, no, this is where I belong, and the beauty is in the simple things, and I can do this with joy and do a great job, and truly with care. That's where I found the beauty at the beginning. It's like, I love this because it's humbling, and it was a really powerful moment for me. So,
yeah, finding that joy in everything you do is so important. I'm curious, because you said you came from the restaurant industry, were there similarities between the two industries?
Yes, in the sense that long hours, like the restaurant industry really put a work ethic into me that taught me that it's not about the clock in, clock out. It's like you do whatever it takes, and that's always been a part of me, because I started in the restaurant industry when I was like 15. So just learning that crazy work ethic, and doing, because every customer is different, every demand in the restaurant is different. Sometimes people don't show up. You have to work longer hours, and it's pretty chaotic. That correlated really well. And Earls in general have a lot of incredible philosophies that we put into our business that I'm so grateful for forever to Earls for the philosophies that they trained me in that now we see in Picture Perfect Cleaning. So, yeah.
The idea of working hard and doing whatever needs to be done is some might argue is dying a little bit here. And so I'm curious as to your thoughts on how do you instill that value in your staff and your team?
Yeah, you're right. I think somewhere on the shelf I have the 4-hour work week, or whatever. And that is, I don't know, it is, it's a mentality that seems to be kind of trending, and but it's about finding people that love what they do. So if you, and loving the people that you work with as well, so if everyone's just really happy in what they're doing, it doesn't become work, and you just enjoy it, And so I think we've created a culture that is kind of at that level, at least, certainly for the management team and whatnot, where people just really enjoy what they're doing. So it becomes less work. The custodians, on our team, they're thinking about survival often, right? They're thinking about, I need to do this in order to get for my children, or for my family back home, or for whatever it is. So there's a deep, deep purpose there that they have, that we are so careful to never abuse, because that's where I think a lot of the industry does abuse that purpose. And so we do our best to understand that purpose, and not take advantage of it. So, yeah.
We were talking a little bit off camera about the amount of janitorial companies that there are.
Yes.
And I was surprised by the number.
Yeah.
So obviously attraction from a value perspective with your employees, we've talked about. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, does that translate to your clients as well?
In the sense that that's how we grow, get more clients, or yeah. Like I was saying, there's 34,000 janitorial companies in Canada. That's at least the last number I saw. Probably is more now because there's very little barrier to entry. But yes, absolutely. Like the way we take care of our people has separated us from the very beginning. There's so many wins that you get from taking care of your people. The retention is low. You can spend more time on growth versus management, and managing the people and making sure that they're showing up or whatever. The results are usually a lot better because they're proud of who they work for, what they're doing. So yeah, there's so many benefits, and it was a big part of our early growth was we were just getting better results out of often the same pool of people, but those people were flourishing within our environment versus other environments. Yeah.
People often talk about the idea of doing the right thing, just doing the right thing because you're doing the right thing.
Right.
Sometimes that can be challenging, but it should be easy. How do you feel about that?
Doing the right thing to do the right thing.
Taking care of your people, for example.
Yeah, it's just you get better sleep at night by doing that, right? And I'm a man of faith too, so that's I have a bigger purpose than just my selfish desires. So because of that, it's very natural to like I have a responsibility to these human beings. So it's really not doing the right thing to do the right thing. Like it's so much more than that. But it's also, how my children, like they listen to me on the phone or conversations, and I want them to see how you treat someone, with respect. And so, it's so much greater than just to do it, just for the sake of doing it because I can post it on social media. Which I often do, but that's a branding thing and the whole other story. But it's much greater than that. That's for sure. Yeah.
You have your own podcast as well.
Yes.
This day and age, marketing is obviously crucial, but personal branding is also super relevant, and kind of having a face behind the name, the brand, but also your own platform to kind of share your thoughts and that sort of thing. Yeah. How has that helped you, and how has that affected your business?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So it's been about 6 months or so since I started, and it's been really, really powerful. Being able to, I was saying to you earlier as you came, is, people that you'd message them and say, hey, I'd love to take you for lunch or coffee, would probably just ignore me. But when I say, hey, I'd love to have you on a podcast, it's a very different response. And I'm attracting people now that may have not given me the time of day before. So it's been really, really valuable in that sense. But most importantly is that I'm learning about our customers, our industry that we're servicing. And that's been so powerful, because before we were kind of on the outside in, trying to understand them, trying to serve them, but now I can confidently say I get the property management. That's our podcast is Mastering Property Management. I get that industry, without working in it. So as close as I can possibly get without working in it, I truly understand it. So, yeah.
How do you deal with changes that occur in your industry? Maybe it's a property management change, maybe it's COVID, something like that. Yeah. How do you navigate that change?
I guess I could speak to COVID, because that was a wild time for everyone. Within our business, it was very scary. My children saw me cry for the first time ever, and we got a call from our biggest client that they're closing the doors, and we didn't know at that time what that meant. It was a very scary. And then we were getting email after email after email. But I called my partner and I said, listen, Aaron, we're going to war. This is war, and we have to do whatever it takes right now to survive. And so we actually started offering seniors home free disinfect. And so I posted a video on social media, and it got a little bit of views and went a little bit viral. Nothing crazy, but we ended up getting a call. I remember it was a Thursday at 4 p.m. from a seniors home saying, we're having an outbreak, we need help. And then they said, well, they're like, how many people can you bring? So at that time, I think we had 7 people ready to go the next morning. But most of our team were very scared, because it was very early on. No one knew what was going on, and no one really understood what COVID was. And so I went in. I went to the 3rd floor, where everyone was isolated in the senior center. And with our disinfecting, we had our victory sprayer, and I had a hazmat suit. And I went up there and disinfected the whole floor. And that was the first time in a while that I actually really got my hands dirty, and haven't done it much since. Once in a while I will, but very rarely. But it was war, right? And so we were ready to do whatever it took, and I had to show the team that we were. So I'm safe, I'm alive. So it was the right thing to do. But yeah, handling change is what we're good at. We're always, both my partner and I are really nimble, and ready to be creative and innovative, and we're always trying to think ahead. There's new technologies coming out, and we believe that we're always in front of that, and we enjoy that part of the business. So, yeah.
I love that story. I think that, it's a common misconception that, business owners are just kind of sitting behind their desk and barking orders all day. But you hear stories like that. And lots of businesses during COVID were in the same boat. Yeah. That, we all had to step up and make the right decision and do the right thing. And how do you feel about that whole concept that, it kind of goes back to your core value, which is, step up and do the right thing.
Yes. Yeah, how do I feel?
Yeah, when you're forced into a situation where you gotta.
Yeah, that's where I shine. There's a weird kind of deep part of me that loves difficult moments. Back in the early days, I'd put on events, and I just love that intense pressure of making sure everything was executing at a really high level. And yeah, it's where the best comes out of me. I always know if anyone can survive in any situation, I always feel like it's me. Although I couldn't survive in the outdoors. It sounds like you guys are outdoors guys. I'd be horrible at that. But that's why I have a good business partner that camps a lot. But as far as making sure I go into survival mode, and I always figure it out. I really have a lot of confidence in myself in those moments. So, yeah.
Have there been any other experiences where, you've had to kind of just put your head down and figure it out during the 14 years of your business?
I mean, every day, like every day. It's crazy, right? Because you start a company and like it's like you start something from nothing, right? Like so, like you're creating your logo, you're creating your, it's every day that you're just kind of making these like decisions that can drastically change the direction of where you're going, or do you invest in a website? Do you start providing different type of services? So there's always these questions, which is the life of an entrepreneur. I think every entrepreneur could probably relate to that. So yeah, it is on the everyday. Any specific situations that I can think of? We've been looking at acquisitions, and so big decision on, do we invest, a significant amount of our money and in financing it and all that on an acquisition, or do we invest in talent, or do we just keep doing what we're doing and trust within our team? And there's been all sorts of different decisions we have to make within that. We're still not settled, but at the moment we're just working as a team and focused on organic growth and giving the best service possible, branding ourselves and growing. And we've kind of put the acquisition thing to the side, where we spent a few years trying to make an acquisition. And I'm relieved that that's kind of behind us now, because it was very distracting. Still could be in the cards, but until we find that right company, it's, yeah.
What was it distracting you from?
I think that really our team, like the management team, like having like the relationships within Picture Perfect Cleaning, because I was just getting pulled in all these directions, and the organic growth, like just getting back to the basics of building relationships with customers, or potential customers. I wasn't able to get there, and so that was definitely a distraction for me. But now that it's gone, like that's when I kind of in correlation, I started the podcast, where I can really get back to the customer, our clients, and really, focus on them. So yeah, it's been awesome. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that, you have limited amount of time in a day. Yeah. You've got a family, you've got all these things going on. When you're faced with these decisions, or just in general, how do you choose what to prioritize and what makes most sense, what to pursue?
Yeah, I mean, and we talk about this with all of our team. It's like, faith, family, and then business, right? So that's always a priority. You might be able to hear my 3-year-old upstairs right now banging on the ceiling, but they're number one for sure. Like our faith and our family, that's priority number one. So that's not a sacrifice. But because of that means that I'm working at night after they go to bed, and as soon as I get up in the morning, it's go time. And so my hours are full for sure. And I've been very fortunate to have an amazing partner in Aaron Graham that really understands the role of a CEO. And I'm not saying that in a facetious way, but he is always working towards taking things off my plate. So he's just been amazing in that sense. Like, hey, like, we need to make this system more efficient for you so that you don't have to do it, or so that it takes half the time. And he's always thinking about these things. So it allows me to really focus on the growth, the vision, of the business. And I'm so grateful for him in that way. So, yeah.
Was that always the case? Was it always kind of that smooth sailing between yourself and your partner?
Yeah, in a way, not exactly, but in a way, it's always been smooth sailing. Like, we have an amazing partnership. Like, I can't even imagine having a better one. I almost get choked up just thinking about how awesome he is, and how grateful I am for everything he does. But we kind of hit a point where we didn't have our roles defined very well. And there's a lot of crossover and a lot of uncertainty, like, are you going to take care of that? Am I going to take care of that? Even though our skill sets were very different. So there was a lot of clarity in most, but then there was still that kind of crossover. We took a program through MRU called Growth Catalyst, which I recommend for any business owner to look into. Very, very good program. And that program, and I actually intentionally signed up for that program for this, so that we could really help define, ourselves and where each other's paths are in the business. after taking that program, Aaron like just went bananas. Like he just figured it out. It was like a light bulb went off, and he knows his role better than I've ever seen him understand his role. And he knows my role, really well. And he's really done a great job in saying, no, you stay over there, don't come over here. And I'm dealing with this, trust me, right? And it's worked really, really well. So, yeah.
What are some of the symptoms of that crossover that you were discussing? I feel like a lot of people that go into business with a partner, with a friend, whatever the case may be, they experience these things and they're not really sure how to navigate them.
Yeah, I guess it was a matter of us both caring. We both cared a lot, and so because of that, we just wanted to get involved in everything. Me more than him. Like I was way too involved in all the day-to-day stuff, putting my fingers, and he's often like, man, just I can do it. Let me just run with it. I'm good. And so it took, I guess it's a symptom of, not lack of trust, but lack of relinquishing control. And so that took a while for me to come to terms with. Even though I always thought I was good at relinquishing control, I wasn't very good. I'm probably still got a lot of work to do. But it's definitely come a long way, and giving that control away. So a good example of that is when we get feedback, I used to be on every single email that came in. And not only was I on every single email, I would always reply. I was always the first one to reply. I'm obsessed about fast communication, so I would be the first one to respond, not to our client, but to our office manager, who then would respond. But I would always dig in and start talking, and the conversation would go off. And Aaron's like, okay, no. We're gonna rate each feedback. So we have a scale, so 1 to 5. If it's a 3 to 5, you're going to be on those. If it's a 1 to 2, you don't even see them. That was a great example of one of his ideas of defining the level of feedback and taking stuff on my plate. And most feedback is usually 1 or 2. They're not that big. They're just minor things like, hey, you forgot garbage, or something like that. And so that's been huge, critical. So, yeah.
That delegation piece, that like relinquish of control of certain elements of the business is what a lot of new entrepreneurs struggle with.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, there's a book, I don't know if you've heard it, but it's by Michael Gerber called The E-Myth Revisited. It's the Entrepreneur Myth. Have you read it? Or
no, I've heard of it.
You've heard it? Okay. Yeah, it's probably my favorite book. I think it's up there somewhere. He kind of coined the term when he wrote the book. I think he wrote it in like the late 70s or early 80s or something like that, the first one, and then he revised it. But he coined the term work on the business, not in the business. And he talks about why a lot of businesses fail. And it's often due to, Bob is a great plumber, so he starts a plumbing company. Susie makes great pies, so she starts a pie company. But they're technicians, they're not entrepreneurs. They're very good at what they do, but do they really know how to scale it and step out and trust others to make good pies? And that the book is excellent for that topic. And both Aaron and I read it when we started the business. And we go back to it a lot, and it's been a very useful tool for us a philosophy for us to think about. The good thing is I'm not the best cleaner, so thankfully I'm not, and so I'm the dentist with bad teeth, right? It's finding people that are amazing cleaners, that really are the best in what they do, and bringing them on board, and that's been so powerful. So yeah.
It sounds like the communication between yourself and Aaron is extremely positive and healthy.
It is.
What are some of the tactics that you use, that you recommend others use as well?
For partnerships?
Yeah.
Have a common goal. Like it has to be, at the end of the day, we both kind of made an early agreement at the very beginning is we're both not afraid to do whatever it takes. Swing our fists no matter what. Like we will work day and night, and we both have always been that way. And so he knows I'll do that, and I know he'll do that. That's powerful, if you just know that person's gonna do whatever it takes. And then I would say the next thing is it's okay to have disagreements, and it's okay to have conflict, but you have to trust the person. And what I've learned is that there are definitely times, we've been in business for almost 14 years now. He's been right many times where I was sure I was right. And then, as the time goes, it's like, I wasn't, and so that time and experience kind of helps you just learn that you don't have to be so stubborn, and be open to listen to the other person. I think those have been critical, and then most importantly is that it's about the customer. Like at the end of the day, and the custodian, and our team, at the end of the day, if it's not the best job our custodians ever had, then it's the wrong decision. If it's not the best wow customer experience the customer's ever had, it's the wrong decision. So as long as we can agree on that, it doesn't matter. Our pride is out the window. It's like, okay, well, what is best for our customer and for our custodian?
Yeah, that personal alignment is so important, right? Making sure that you're on the same page and being humble to being wrong.
Yeah, it's not easy. I've gotten better at it over the years. Aaron's very good at it, which has been a good relationship that way, because he's a super humble guy, and he's open. He's been very trusting. Had a little bit more experience in the as a manager than him. He was a server at the time when we started the business, and came from Australia and was working at a summer camp, and so he was younger than me, and because of that early kind of relationship that we had, that it was kind of established that, because I had a little more experience or whatever, that I was kind of going to lead the path, and he trusted, and but I was always so respectful of him, and always would check with him and ask him what he thought, and often used his ideas, and it worked out very well that way. Yeah.
Often in those type of partnership conflicts, one of the biggest things we see is that people take it personally, and they take it home with them, and they think it's all personal when you're just trying to solve a problem at work.
Yeah.
Have you dealt with that?
From me taking it personal, or some of our staff, or anything?
Just approaching those scenarios with ensuring that it's not personal. We're just gathering feedback, or whatever the case.
Yeah, for sure. I sometimes, I think in the first half of our business, I was. I had a hard time understanding people that took things so personal. Like you can't offend me. It's very hard to offend me. I'll passionately defend my side, but you can't offend me. Like I'm very open to all sorts of ideas or whatever, and being told like I'm open to criticism, and I might like argue it and think, oh, you're wrong, but I can hear it, and I won't hate you for it, and I won't fire you for it or whatever. I've gotten much better, and I think both Aaron and I are very good at just being open to the criticism or being challenged, and not taking things personal, because again, it's about the customer. It really is. It has nothing to do with us. Set our ego aside. It's what's best for, again, our custodians, who are arguably more important than our customer, which I know is very controversial to say, but I do argue that our custodian is more important, and our customers that understand that, they really appreciate that, because our custodians are everything, So as long as there's a way to communicate things and there's a way not to, and so we've found that a feedback model that works really well. That it's rare that people take things too personal, because we're very careful in our how we approach our feedback. So yeah.
When it's crucial, when it's the center of the business is ensuring that the decisions are made around the customer and your custodians, it's important to be able to also effectively gather feedback and act on that feedback. Yes. Are there certain methods that you use to ensure that you're gathering feedback effectively and actually implementing it?
Yeah, so we have a team of operation managers, and they're kind of responsible for both our clients and our custodians that are at those client sites, and so we have metrics to, every week they come and present, and they talk about how many client visits they had, how many custodian visits they had, and amongst other things. But and then what are the conversations within those, and so they go through every week and present all of that, and we have, again, certain metrics that they have to achieve, minimum metrics that as far as how many people they have to talk to, right? And so that's been a great way to make sure that we're always engaging, and so I would say that that's been a strategy that it works. We've done surveys. We're always, at the end of the day, it's relationships, right? So it's having conversations. And because I can't have the conversations with all the custodians, it's our operation managers that do. But it starts with us, it's how we treat our operation managers is how we expect them to treat our custodians, and so and our clients, and so I think creating that culture with them has been very powerful in making sure that the communication, the feedback, and anything within it is very strong. So.
Do you find that those sort of relationships and the way that you foster them, especially with your managers to your custodians, is it often lead by example kind of thing, or do they come in with that skill already?
A little bit of both. There's people that we've hired that came from our industry, and we have to really kind of unfortunately break those old habits away. Like we have to kind of say, hey, no, this is not how we do it here, And so, but then there's people that have started with us, that have been with us for over 10 years, that started when they were, one gentleman in particular started us when he was 18, and he's still with us I think he's about to hit his 10-year mark this summer. And it was amazing because we really kind of raised him, in the sense of in his work life, and so he really gets it. He's very, very good with the people. And so I think it's a little bit of both. But it does, yeah. So we have an expression called "be the bird." And when you see the birds flying in a perfect V formation in the sky, and they're like, how are they flying so perfectly together in unison, right? It's so beautiful to watch. And they were studied. Many scientists were trying to figure out how do they do it so perfectly? And what they've discovered, now maybe there'll be a new discovery in 5 years from now, or whatever. But what they believe is that it's it's one bird and then 6 to 7 birds around it that copy each other. And then you can kind of go further, 6 to 7 birds around that one, and then 6 to 7 birds around that one, and then so we have an expression of "be the bird." So if we're taking care of our people, they now have to go out and be the bird and take care of their people, and so it's kind of this extension that everyone has to consistently, we can't, if we're treating our people incredibly well, and they're going on they're not being the bird, and that's against everything that we stand for. So it's super important that A, we have the right people on the bus, but B, that we are, setting the tone. That's critical.
I love that example. I think a lot of people are going to steal that.
For sure, yeah, for sure. Well, I got it from, it was called Culture Code, a book that I read, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, for sure.
Have you ever had to deal with, in an organization where culture and front-facing clients and that sort of thing is so important and prevalent? Have you ever had to deal with, an employee that maybe they were a bad hire, maybe they didn't fit the culture, maybe they weren't a great fit to represent your business?
Sure, for sure. Yeah, it happens. I would love to say no, but for sure it happens. It's less and less frequent. Our hiring process is ridiculously thorough, because if you get that right, everything else falls into place. But in the early years, it wasn't as thorough. It always was, but we were a little bit more panicked in the very early years, and sometimes it's either I go in and clean, or I go find somebody that I don't care who, that's gonna just cover for me because I need sleep. And those were in the first couple of years. And I remember hiring, this is 12 or so years ago, maybe even 13 years ago, hiring a gentleman that, he, bless his soul, he was a hard worker and but he was a disaster. He was just panicked, and he just was so overwhelmed by the simple things. And he was very, very hard to work with, and would make a mess and constantly spilling his mop bucket everywhere. And he was just so panicked, and it was a really hard one to handle, because he was a good guy and he really wanted to do well, but it was a very high anxiety scenario working with him and trying to train him, and so we had to let him go. And he got so angry at us, and he took it really the wrong way. But I'll tell you, I saw him, if he's watching, he was a shuttle driver for the airport, for one, I don't know, maybe it was a hotel or something. But I remember jumping in, and he was there, and he was so happy to see me. And he said, "I want to say I'm sorry. Like, I was new to the country, and I was, and I wasn't like well settled. And he's like, I'm sorry for how I handled things." And and I was like, no, like, I'm sorry. I've been carrying around this guilt. I'm like, I'm sorry. And it was such nice closure. So that was nice. But our thing is we have a philosophy of hiring slow but firing fast. At the end of the day, if we see that they're not fitting the culture, if they don't have the right approach, we have to unfortunately cut them off. And the longer you let it go, the harder it gets to to take that person off your team. So we do have that mentality. We just can't, there's always the wrong hire. It just happens, but you have to identify it really quickly and make a move really quickly. So, yeah.
That story about the driver is incredible. I think that, a lot of people sit with that guilt sometimes and never get that closure that you got there.
Yeah, very fortunate in that sense. Yeah.
And the reality is there's always going to be, just not the right fit. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think a lot of people kind of carry a lot of guilt also in either, the employee not being the right fit or, having to let go of that employee and, on both sides. And the reality is you're probably doing yourselves both a favor.
100%. There's been some people we've let go, and it's been very difficult. And people that have been with us for many years, or put in a lot of hard work, but they were just not fitting the culture. But when we do it, it's always the right thing. It's hard to make that step, and sometimes you wait too long. But we've gotten better and better, just saying do it fast, like peel the Band-Aid off quick, kind of thing. So yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Similar question on the client side. Maybe you chose to engage a client that wasn't a good fit.
Right.
How do you deal in that scenario?
Yeah, we've had a few over the years that just were not the right customer. Like, I remember learning at Earls because there was the old expression, the customer's always right. But Earls taught me the right customer is always right, and not every customer is your right customer. And so there's been moments where we've had customers that are not ours, not the right fit. And we had one gentleman that got really angry because I tried to say, listen, I think we finished this contract. Like, let's just call it a day. We'll give you the term that we have, and we'll finish it off, and we'll make sure to put our best foot forward. But we just don't think we're I think there's someone else better fit for you. And he called me right away and kind of got really angry at me. He's like, you can't do this to me, and you can't, fire me, and this kind of stuff. And I was like, he convinced us to stay. I should have stuck to my guns, and it went right back to it, and all borderline abusive, and to our custodians. And that's where we're drawn. We've had some scenarios like that, and that's usually when they're not the right customer, is when they're actually, typically verbally abusive to our staff. We have no tolerance for that, zero. We were cleaning. We don't do any restaurants anymore, but we had many at the first few years, and we had a bar that we were cleaning, and the staff would stay afterwards and get drunk, and we had staff that were chased around with broomsticks, and sworn at, and like just all sorts of things. And right away we're like, you're not our customer, and we were very comfortable saying sorry. Like, we got to cut that off. So yeah. It's not that often though. Most people are pretty awesome. So yeah.
That concept of firing the client is I feel like it's not as common as you'd think it might be. Like you said, the staying is ingrained in us from a young age, which is the client's always right, or the customer's always right.
Yes.
And that concept of firing a client, I think, is so integral that business owners, you retain that right.
Yes.
If something's not a fit, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's integrity, right? Like, it's upholding an integrity, a level of integrity that we won't waver on, and no money in the world could force us to waver on. And so that's, I think having those strong core values really creates that clarity on who we are, and that we won't put up with abuse. And I don't know if every business is like that. I think a lot of people take on whatever it takes, but then they end up always scrambling, and just especially in our industry, right? There's a lot of people that just take on anything and anyone, and it's a short-term gain, but for the long term, they're going to be in a lot of pain. So.
Do you think that the ability to say no and kind of determine your ideal customer is a learned thing through experience and time?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we didn't know, like, starting our business, we didn't really know who our customer was, and we were like, we'll take on everybody, and we were actually, I shouldn't say that. We were very clear when we first started, and we still are this way today, and in fact, we're considering changing, but we've always said, we don't take on one-off jobs. Someone calls us for a carpet cleaning, a post-construction cleaning, a deep cleaning, or whatever, we don't do it. We only focus on existing customers, and we've always said no to that, and that's been very comfortable for us, and a lot of people are like, man, you guys are leaving so much money on the table. Like, there's so much business out there for post-construction cleaning or carpet cleaning, all this stuff. But we're like, no, but that, like, if we do that, it's going to take us away. There's a lot of management involved in that. And it's going to take us away on focusing on our core customers, the ongoing janitorial service that we provide. So that was always, we were always very, very comfortable with that. Saying no to restaurants is still hard to this day. We normally just put a very high price and assume they won't go with us. And if they do go with us, then great, it's gonna be profitable. Yeah, restaurants are just a different, nothing against, that's where I come from. So, but they're just a different beast altogether. So we've avoided those. And we've also we're more and more getting comfortable just saying no to those. Yeah.
Niching is a big topic these days, among any business or any industry.
Yeah.
Lots of people are saying, you should niche down super, super tight, and others are saying wide net. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm all over the map on that because, for us purposes, I mean, we service, whether it's gyms, schools, dental offices, if you're a business, like all sorts of different types of business. If you're a business, we can provide our services. So a niche in the sense of it has to be ongoing, whether it's once a week, 5 days a week, we have a minimum pricing as long as you fit that. That's niche enough for us. We do a lot of condos and apartment buildings, like the common areas of those, quite a few. But what we don't do is we don't do parquet cleaning, or carpet cleaning. Like we do carpet cleaning, but it's not like a heavy, big focus of ours. Post-construction and all that. When we went through that program at MRU, they were saying, no, big discussion was maybe you should consider adding verticals, like a parquet cleaning, which is a totally different business in itself. And so, or, post-construction, whatever. I felt like at MRU, it was less about niche, it was more about verticals, like being innovative, finding different ways to create different revenues within your current existing customer base. And so I wouldn't say struggling, but we're kind of grappling with that concept still to this day, even though we graduated a year ago, and still really thinking about, should we not? And so I can't answer that with certainty right now. So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Ongoing discovery.
It is. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
It's clear you're passionate about what you do, and obviously that's super important in any business.
Yeah.
Where do you get your fulfillment from what you do every day?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I'd like to consider myself an artist in business, and so it's not necessarily about the money. The money is like kind of the metric that says my art is good, but I really enjoy the creation, I remember when we first started, like I would drive around at night and see, the sites being cleaned, the lights on, and I can see through the window and people are mopping it. It's like, oh, this is beautiful. Like this is an extension of an idea that I had that, is coming to fruition. So that's really special for me, and I just really enjoy it. I mean, really the real amazing, like where the magic happens is when I see our custodians grateful and really happy and recommending their family and friends to come work with us. And one of the most special moments that I've ever had in life is when one of our custodians, we promoted him into management, and he's still a manager with us today. And he bought a house, and so we helped him move. It was our whole management team helped him move into his house, And he took me aside and he walked me around. He gave me a kind of a private tour. And then we were upstairs in their room and their bedroom. And he said, Jared, like, this is because of PPC, Picture Perfectly. Like, this is because of the opportunity, you know, that you gave me. And, you know, I've achieved a huge dream of mine. This is my dream, to own my own home. He was from Colombia and he came here with very little again. And he's got 2 children. And oh man, that was like, you can't get better than that. Like, so that's I think what drives me is like seeing that, like lifting up, you know, the tide, you know, and that is special. Yeah. And of course my children, right? Like, and my family, that's, I got huge purpose, you know, to set them up, right? To make sure that they're getting the best of the best in any opportunities without spoiling them, or making sure that they have the same integrity that I have, and teaching them hard lessons all the time whenever I can. It's hard to do when you do have things, you know, like sometimes you have to suffer to have those values. And, you know, growing up here, there's not a lot of suffering relatively speaking. And so trying to balance that. But yeah, purpose is definitely in my family, that's for sure. So.
Are there any other businesses in your future? Is that a consideration? Or?
Yeah, well, there is. Just before you got here, I was actually on a call. We're talking about verticals. One of the ones that we're strongly considering is security. Who knows, maybe I'll watch this in a few years from now and be like, I was thinking about that. But we're looking at security quite hard, quite seriously. We have a gentleman that approached us, a young guy, and he without sounding creepy, he said, I'm a fanboy of yours. You know, he's like watched all my podcasts, and he said, I really want to be a part of what you guys are doing, and I want to run the security company branch for you guys. And he reminds me of myself, you know, when I was young and passionate, but not sure where to go and what to do. And so I really like his approach to things. So we're looking at it. Right now we're looking at trade names and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so we're thinking about it, but I don't want to get distracted. And I said that very clearly to him and my partner Aaron, is that Picture Perfect Cleaning it's the bread and butter, you know, and it'll always be. I want to do this till, you know, really the day I die. I have no intention of retiring. At least I say at this point. You know, I love it. It gives me tons of, you know, like satisfaction and purpose. And there's just it's just the perfect business that I can't imagine anything better. So yeah, this is it. If we can diversify a little bit, I think that would be good, right? Because who knows where the world goes, whether we're replaced by robots or COVID or, you know, whatever can happen. I think it's good to diversify a little bit. So that's kind of my motivation to look at some other revenue generators. So yeah. Sure.
There's this, I think it's called shiny new object syndrome or something along those lines, where, you know, somebody's always looking for the next thing and what could be, but then it just detracts them from, you know, what they know to be tried and true.
Totally.
Have you experienced that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I keep saying this. I really need to trademark it. I have a syndrome called ABD, Attention Business Disorder, and I had it really bad, you know, before I started the business, where I was like, I'm going to start this. I like this. And definitely, you know, like always looking at ideas, always thinking about, you know, what's the next thing or what could we get into. And I've gotten better and better at saying, stop it, like focus, like this is working. Keep feeding this, keep feeding it. It's working. Why would I do anything else? Because it's growing, you know, and it's, the customers are happy, and it's generating, you know, a lifestyle for my family and everything. And so, and again, great for our team and our people. And so I'm trying to do my best not to get distracted by those shiny objects and kind of, you know, keeping my ABD, pushing it to the side. And I'm getting better at it, that's for sure, yeah.
I love that. Definitely people are going to steal that.
Yeah. I got trademark it before it's gone. Yeah, for sure.
What does success look like to you?
Yeah, you know, I would say health and faith and family, if those are aligned. A lot of the other things are secondary. So, I'm grateful every day for just being healthy. Like, it's not everyone has that, not everyone, and that can change in a day. So I'm super grateful for my health. So being successful is being healthy, and is being solid, grounded in my faith, and giving me just kind of that balanced approach. And obviously not just my health, but my wife and my children's health, more important than mine. And so, making sure that that's all taken care of, that's successful. Everything else is fun. So as long as I can have those things, the rest is a game, and it's just a lot of fun. And, but I would love, I'm not a materialistic guy. I don't need the nicest car or anything. Well, I have a nice truck, but it's only because I'm not good at fixing things, so I have to buy a new truck. Otherwise, I'll be wasting time on that. But I do dream of having a nice home. I love our home, and I'd love to. I'm really happy with it, but I have a dream of having something nice in Mount Royal or wherever, and maybe on the lake here. We're in Mahogany. That'd be nice, a nice kind of metric. But otherwise, more importantly, is the family, the health, and stability and faith. Yeah.
How do you see faith and business intertwine? I've heard a lot of people describe it in several different ways.
Yeah. Oh man, I mean, I'm always praying for the business. I pray that our custodians, that it's the best job they ever had, and they're very happy in everything they do. I'm always praying for that. I'm always praying for our customers, for them to be extremely satisfied in everything we do. So those two things are very important. I think from a psychological perspective, take out the God for a second, but that's an important thing to just kind of quietly think about and ask for, right? But the great thing is I don't know, this isn't a religious podcast, but because God is so great in His creation that He wants us to pray because we think about these things, we reflect on them, and so that helps. I think that really helps. But also values, integrity, truth, like it gives you kind of a foundation to kind of understand, because if you don't have the faith, and many people are very successful and done very well without it, but you might not have a really clear moral compass, and so there might be some uncertainty or questions where it's kind of nice to have that kind of foundation where everything's very clear in what you should be doing. I'm actually Jewish, but a convert to Catholicism. So Jesus gave us the foundation. He gave us, so in my decision making, I'm often like, well, actually, I'm not the CEO. God is, right? Like Jesus is the CEO, and there's a bigger purpose. Now, take it further for our custodians. I often do look for faith in our custodians. Why? Because when they're, in our clients' properties, they're not just doing it for themselves, and they believe that there's a higher power there. And often that mentality is, well, what are you doing when no one's around? Well, God's still there, right? And so you have a bigger purpose because it's when no one's looking, what are you doing? And so that helps a lot in our hiring process too. Not to say that, I don't ask directly, but you can generally see that a lot of our custodians do have some sort of faith. It could be any denomination, but.
Mm-hmm. Well, some sort of alignment, right? And just ultimately care for the people.
That's
like
right.
you talked about.
Yes, and not to say you can do it without. Like, my parents are secular. I grew up fairly secular, and they're the most caring, loving people in the world. So, so you can do it without, but it certainly helps. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Jared, where can we send people to follow along your journey and what you're doing?
Yeah, so I would say I'm probably most active on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Jared Sarbit. Just give me a search, and you'll find me pretty quick. You can also follow, we have an Instagram page, Picture Perfect Cleaning. We have a Facebook page, but I would say LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect with me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I truly appreciate our conversation today.
Likewise.
It's so refreshing hearing from people who really are so customer centric and customer and people centric ultimately, right? It's something that, it's not dying. I don't mean to say that by any means, but it's just that being the core of what you do is so refreshing to hear. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's amazing. Thanks.